Hi everyone, welcome to Third Coast Gaming Impressions. It is April 18th, 2021. It's episode 25. I'm joined by my co-host Austin Taylor. Hello.
Ah, you are. It's me, the co-host.
Yes, and I am the host. Maybe I'm also a co-host. Who knows? We don't have titles here. We've been playing some games. I was gonna say, hey, start with Austin. You played some Disco Elysium. Is this the re-release with the voice acting in it?
Yeah, so this is the oh boy. This game is so much. Yeah, this is the Disco Elysium Final Cut, which is the pretty massive update to Disco Elysium that released at the end of March. Where now boy, every voice line is accompanied by like audio acting, right? Every written line has someone speaking it for the most part, aside from like if it's something you're reading. On rare occasion though, because usually if you're reading something that's accompanied by like internal monologuing. Uh, yeah, and so when they redid the voiceover for certain characters, like you can find gameplay of Disco Elysium's initial release, specifically like pretty early impressions regarding like with like this kid named Kuno, right? And just the quality in voice acting is just a huge improvement. Uh, and then they've also added in content regard like and steps to certain quests. I'm not entirely sure what that looks like because I didn't play the initial release of Disco Elysium because you go into this game, and I guess I should throw out Disco Elysium is this like CRPG that is made heavily in the vein of something like Planescape Torment, where the kind of character you build drastically changes how your character can interact with the world, right? So if you decide to make a character who's like a strong guy, like the things that you get from interactions will not be the same things that you get if you decide to make a character who's um, like very intelligent or like very emotionally intelligent, right? And able to read people.
Yeah. How far did you get? How far
Yeah.
did you get in this?
Um, length length is always a bit of a tricky thing to describe here. So Disco Elysium, like once you start up, you're a amnesiac detective. You wake up in your hotel room. You try to put together yourself and figure out what you're doing here. You're here to solve a murder. Um, and you spend like the day going around this city district of Martinet talking to people. And the thing that sort of indicates progress within the game world is that as you talk to people, there is a clock, right? Like basically, just a normal clock. And the thing that moves the clock forward is you selecting dialogue options in conversation with people. It's sort of meant to be this like this is how much work you can get done in a day before your character needs to go to sleep. And it's quite a lot. Like it's not. I don't mean to say like there's a clock in this game and to like build pressure because I understand like the idea of that is quite can be intimidating, but it is like from a 7 a.m. to like midnight clock that gives you just a lot of time within each day. Probably around, I would say from my experience, like each day can get you about like a 6 hour like play session is around that. So I'm currently on the beginning of the third day within Disco Elysium.
Huh.
So I've spent the first 2 days, investigating this murder, doing an autopsy of the corpse, looking for some lost items I've lost, including my badge and gun, which is a real big problem, and like trying to evolution,
It's a good time to be there.
right? So like there are things, there are just concepts and ideas within that Disco Elysium presents that can be that aren't like I don't want to say like high concepts that can be hard to comprehend. It's just they throw so much at you in a pretty
Huh.
pretty short amount of time, that it's just like it's hard to wrap your head around everything. He's like individually, I kind of like everything's pretty easy to get. Like you are essentially a police. You are the most literal like version of police as an occupying army in a very real way here, and that's why like when you interact with some people within Martinet, like you are met with open contempt and just extreme questioning of your authority, and like also like challenges that you can't like you can't just sort of surmount by saying, "But I'm police."
Yeah.
And that's where I think the game can be its most intimidating, but also like at its most interesting.
Hey, so I don't think I've looked into those too much. Does this game have combat too, or is it just like you navigating through NPCs and
It
dialogue
is.
and stuff?
I have not reached any point in this game where it has thrown me into a combat phase, right? So like traditionally within CRPGs, you have your exploration, and then like combat will like it will be very clear as to like when combat starts, right? Like usually you'll pause, and then it'll be like, okay, now you have to manage your party members individually, all that stuff. Maybe even going to turn-based modes. There is conflict that you can get into in conversations. Like one of the first things you can do is attempt to knock out a huge dude who's barring entry to a office that you want to get into. But there is no combat specific mode that I've encountered yet. I've not finished it. I don't know if that'll change by the end of it, but
Apparently it does not feature any combat, and all the
mm,
events are resolved through skill checks and dialogue trees. I'm kind of into that. As someone who like
yeah, yeah,
would not play more Cyberpunk because I was just shooting criminals, and I was like, I don't want to. I'll get back to this.
it's because like the violence, like when you initiate violence in Disco Elysium, it is everyone is so like scared that you could at any moment just like initiate violence, like because you have a partner uh in this game. His name is Kim Katsurugi. He's a police officer from another precinct who was assigned to this case because technically the district you're in, which is again just more of this game's like bullshit. The district you're in is like in a legal gray area where you don't know who has jurisdiction over it. So your precinct sent you, Kim's precinct sent him, and now you're both kind of working this case together. But like the first time you even get into a point where your character could possibly walk into violent situations. Uh, Kim, like when you walk out of that conversation, Kim just looks at you and says, "Hey, how about we don't get to any point with people where I might have to pull out my gun and shoot them?"
Yeah, it's funny.
Uh, and like it wants you to be very aware of like the the severity of like just openly attacking people. Uh, and the thing about skill checks in this game is that they're happening all the time, right? And because you have about 24 skills that you can put points into. And it's more intimidating. It sounds more intimidating than it actually is because every like these are all like skills that usually affect some part of conversation more than anything. Um, like these skill checks are happening basically after every single like line of
Yeah, and
dialogue.
I've heard that the dialogue can be like extremely different depending on like what skills you end up like are better at, and like how would the
Yeah,
different options that open up are just like drastically different in like a way that like replayability in this game is very viable and something that is like recommended because of how different things can go.
yeah. I could see myself like doing a like a strength because right now I'm a like intelligent, like I'm a smart, emotionally intelligent person. I could see myself doing like I want to be like a dexterous, maybe smart person later, just to see like how that changes things, like me not being able to pick up on people's like tells, right? And even in things like dexterity, I'm just gonna call it dexterity. It's called something else, but I'm gonna call it dexterity just to save time on explaining this. Um, and even within like your strength attributes, there are still like skills in those fields that feature your player being able to like read situations outside of like what you would normally associate. Like strength has something called, I think, shudder, and shudder like allows you to get like a sense of the city. You know, not necessarily like what I can do is I can walk in and I can examine parts of the city and I can get a real sense of its history, right? But like with Shutter, you can walk out and you just get a feel of your role in this place that you find yourself in. And the way that this can like internalize within your character is very interesting.
And I remember Disco Elysium like won like a lot of awards and like was highly celebrated for how different like and how complex this game like handles those kind of stuff. And it's all taking place in one city, right? Like you're I think so.
In your excuse me.
Oh, okay. I was saying this takes place in all in one city, right?
To my understanding, yeah, like from what I've seen so far, this is all like in Martinez. You're not leaving Martinez. There are parts of Martinez that are opening to you as like the days go. Like there's a fishing village like towards I don't it's like near the bottom of the map that you can't get to until like the third day you're here because there's like a bridge that's broken. But like it's all within Martinez because you're combing this area for any clues about this murder that happened basically a week ago, right? Like these like someone was taken out behind a hotel and hanged from a tree a week ago, and you're trying to figure that out while also trying to figure out, you know, who you are, and trying to make sure that you can basically stop whatever damage you might have done before when you first
Okay.
got here.
So do you have any moments that have stood out to you so far, or things that have like, or interesting like interactions that have like occurred because of like the way you rolled your character?
Yeah, like there's he's like I've rolled this character like again like a sort of being able to manipulate people, being able to like understand people's emotions and also being able to understand the history of this place. Um so one of the characters you can interact with is this woman who I believe is named Lisa. And this is a character you can interact with pretty early on in the game, but you don't. But interactions with her don't open up until the second day when it's revealed really what she is within the function of like within like this like conflict between the Wild Pines Corporation and um, the workers union. And once you realize, like, once she's like reveals who she is and what she is, she shows an open contempt for you and Kim Katsurugi, specifically as officers of the RCM. And if you like speak with people who know her, and if you're able to pick up on like their feelings towards her, their history with her, you can like kind of use like your knowledge of her personal history to trip her up. But all of these are like hidden behind these skill checks that you would have to spec out into like emotional like empathy and emotional intelligence like to really get. So those are interactions that you wouldn't have, that I would not have if I decided to be like a real strong lad.
Yeah.
And that serves like to later influence interactions you have with the people Lisa is trying to protect.
Okay. Seems pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff going on with Disco's
Yeah,
Elysium.
yeah, it's a very fascinating game, and um, like I just a really interesting take on like what a CRPG can be in a way that we really haven't really gotten with like even with the like mid 2010s resurgence of CRPGs, right? That you see in like Pillars of Eternity and the Divinity series and like Numenera. Like Numenera, like Torment Tides of Numenera is really the first attempt at replicating something like Planescape Torment that I remember seeing with that like art with that CRPG renaissance that we got. But like this is the first time I think it's really succeeded is in Disco
Yeah, and I've heard
Elysium.
it. This is like shaking up a little bit of like the CRPG stuff. Where it's like, oh, we can do something completely different with CRPGs. That's like pushing this genre forward in a way. It's very cool. I beat Outriders also.
You
Yeah,
finished
yeah.
Outriders?
So it has the world tiers, which will like as you're playing through the campaign, they will level up, and you will get higher loot drops, and the enemies will be higher level. So by the end of the game, I was like world tier 8, For that final boss, I had to drop it down because, man, the final boss sucks. He was just kind of a bummer. He was just, I'm going to spoil the ending because it's not that big a deal. It's just like, the final boss was a guy who originally dropped with you in the original colony drop, and he just was like wanting to screw over the indigenous population and collect minerals on the planet. I think there's probably some other stuff, but I was mostly skipping cutscenes still. But yeah, so after you beat the game, you unlock expeditions, which are like repeatable boss missions where when you beat the game, you're level 30, and then when you are at world tier 12, you can get up to level 42 gear. But the level cap for armor is 50, and you get those by getting through, there's like 15 tiers of like expeditions that you'll level up as you play more. I have had a really rough time matchmaking with expeditions because it doesn't do the thing like, okay, so Destiny will load you into a strike and it will matchmake you as you're loading and it'll find other people.
Yeah.
For this, it was searching for a person who was either in this camp near the expeditions or an expedition that is already happening. It doesn't really match you with other people. I don't know if there's a lot of people playing, trying to queue for that stuff, but that's like the only end game stuff you can do. And but it does have cross-play matchmaking, so I think it was grabbing people on PC, and then the way co-op would work with PC is you would get a code from someone, and you would enter that, and you'd be able to join their session. Right. Besides that, I don't know. Outriders ended up being cool. I beat the game, and I kind of piddled around to beat the side quests and get the my max level. The legendary weapons, or the exotic weapons, ended up being pretty cool looking. Like, I got this light machine gun that has a 160 round magazine that I'll load it up with. Like, you have these. I don't remember if we got to it last time we talked about it, but 3 of the 4 classes have like an ability that will increase the damage of their bullets. For the Trickster, it's called Twisted Rounds. So based on my magic power, my bullets will do more damage. So I got this light machine gun that has normally you trade off a bigger magazine for less bullet damage, but since I'm like cranking it with my magic power, it just doesn't matter. Yeah. And then I have an ability that gives me like 50% extra magazine. So I have a 220 magazine gun that I'm just mowing people down with. It's very funny. So bosses are just like dying. It ends up being cool. I think towards the end of the game, in the higher world tiers, it's just chaos when you're playing solo. Like, you're just running around trying to murder everything. And it can be like kind of weird to juggle. Or I kind of wish they had scaled back the enemies, but that made them a little stronger. But at the same time, I'm just murdering an enemy in like half a second with the way the skills end up being.
Even on the higher world tiers?
Yeah, on the higher world tiers, you kind of have to get a little sneakier. Like, what I was using for a while is I was using those throwing knives we were talking about, but they're magical throwing knives that will slow people down. So I was using that for a little bit with the magic rounds and the bubble, but I had to switch back to the ability where you teleport behind someone, because that lets you get out of bullets and just like hop around the map a little more and stun people. But yeah, basically I ended up constantly getting behind people and just juggling between them and always holding down the fire button. Like, I basically, I don't aim anymore. I just hip fire and shoot stuff.
Yeah, you hit fire and
the hip fire is extremely accurate for some reason, and it bewilders me. But it just works out. Like, I'm hip firing an LMG like 200 rounds that there was a combo I found where you put bleed damage on your gun, and then you have an ability on your armor that whenever you kill someone with bleed damage, you get 50% of your magazine back, like it'll replenish it. And so
Okay.
twisted rounds will go away after you reload twice. But if I'm replenishing my magazine, I just have infinite twisted rounds. Yeah, so you just
Jeez.
have infinite
Yeah.
ammo. It's really silly.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, you are a god among men. Why wouldn't you have infinite
Yeah,
ammo?
they made some skills that are just like very broken, and they're fine with it, which is really cool. Like they did some nerfs where they made twisted rounds. They made it longer, the cooldown longer, but it doesn't matter if I'm have infinite twisted rounds. And then there's like a second perk that will be whenever you teleport behind someone, you'll reload your magazine. So people were doing that with
Yeah.
the shotguns. Like I can clear more people with shotguns, but I'm reloading it more often because it only has 30 rounds compared to like 200, but it kills stuff faster. And sometimes it won't proc, just ran. It just I feel like it's just having too much thrown at it. But it ended up being a good time. I would. This is a game I would recommend if it was on sale because it's brief enough,
Yeah.
but it's also satisfying. But I don't think it's satisfying in like a like. I mean, I also wouldn't pay $60 for an Uncharted game that I'm gonna beat in 10 hours. But like, I think the story of that is more satisfying than this. The story in this is just me shooting people and skipping the story, which
Yeah. I mean,
I've heard other people do.
the story is you shoot the problems. You know, like there's a problem here. Outrider, like, okay, I have a gun.
I will shoot stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot the problem. It'll stop moving, and then it will
Yeah.
be good.
There's
Um,
kind of a bummer right now because I think I have 2 side missions left before I get the trophy for it, and the game's not telling me what those are. Unless there's like a hidden.
jeez.
I think there's like a hidden side quest where you activate these like monolith terminals that it doesn't tell you where they are. So I'm either missing that or I'm missing a different side quest. Well, besides that, it's cool. I shot some stuff. I kept thinking about rolling a different class and just beating the game again. But I think I'm either gonna get this and play it on PS4 because I just have it on Game Pass. I don't own this game, or wait till I get a PS5 and do it because I might just re-roll my character even though I spent the time. So I beat the game as at World
Yeah.
Tier 9. I had 3 World Tiers left, and I was like, I'm just gonna grind for these. So the last 2 days I was just grinding my side missions, even though I'm not gonna carry this character over, just because I thought it's just completionist in me, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. It's like this is what this game was made to be.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been cool solo, so it's fun. If you get PS Plus again, I think it'd be a cool two player run. I could see that, but I would also wait for
I
it to go on
don't know.
sale. Yeah.
Yeah, like I could only ever see myself picking this up on like a sale because I will not let myself be the person who skips cutscenes, and I wish I would. I really do, especially with this game.
It's okay.
Um,
We can make
but
fun of the
like,
cutscenes while we're playing it. It's fine.
yeah, but this will just be like a thing I get like really frustrated watching, I'm sure.
Some of the stuff there's some stuff I couldn't skip, or some stuff I just didn't skip, and it was okay. There's some interesting characters it'll throw at you later. Like you find a one of the natives, because there's like an alien race on the
Yeah,
planet who gets turned into like feral, like trying to think what they are. Because originally they're like really smart aliens who have like telekinesis stuff, and then they get turned into like feral, like whatchamacallit, like roamers pretty much, because the guy who came to the planet like did some shit to fuck them up pretty much. It's probably something with like the rift or whatever it is, the storm. I don't
okay.
remember. Oh, who cares?
Like that doesn't sound
No,
good.
no. Screwing over indigenous population as
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, like, and that's the thing with Outriders is like from that demo, there's so many points in that game's narrative, even in just the demo, where it's like it hints at this idea that the game's at some point going to have the character look at at the camera and say like, "Are we the baddies?"
Are we the real bad
Um,
guys?
and I don't have confidence in that game to stick that landing if it even attempts to like
No,
have that be.
that's the shtick of the bad guys. Is the humans are the real bad guys. Speaking of humans being the real bad guys, you replayed some Mass Effect Andromeda. How's colonization in another
Yeah,
game with a better?
yeah.
Some people
Another
would say
game.
Mass Effect Andromeda has a better story than Outriders.
You know, um, I'm not gonna make that claim. I'm not gonna be that guy. Um, yeah. So like because like when EA like put in their new desktop app, I was actually curious to see how like modding works,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, one sec. My dogs are barking about
And
something. I'm gonna leave you to Mass Effect. Right back. One sec. Sorry.
oh, cool, cool. Yeah, yeah. So when the new EA desktop app beta came out, or at least has been a thing for I don't want to say how long, but like once I had to download it because I wanted to use EA Play with my current Game Pass subscription. Um, I decided I wanted to see how modding worked out, and because I have like two mods for character AI, like for more aggressive companion AI, and a mod for enhanced Pathfinder abilities. I decided I was going to try to load up Andromeda through the desktop app or like turn it on to see if mods would work through it. And turns out there's a whole nother process for activating mods through the let me look at this, the Frosty Mod Manager, which is a manager like a way to activate mods uh, for games that use the Frostbite engine, which is EA's proprietary engine. And there's a whole new process you have to do through that. And I decided I didn't want to do it, but I also just started Mass Effect Andromeda, and I decided that I had time, right? Like I had time to spend in like the days leading up to my family's excursion to Dallas, and then my later excursion to Lubbock. Um, and I started playing through Andromeda again. Loaded up Origin so that way the mods worked, and I was more lethal in combat. And I started up Andromeda again from a point pretty early, seemingly. I think I just got to Kadara, which is the sort of the planet where the criminals live. And I don't quite remember how far I was along with the story. Because the thing about Andromeda is nothing about its main narrative is that compelling. I'm gonna think about what I mean by that as I wait for Travis to come back. Letting out his dog.
How's the mods?
Okay. Uh, the mods are fine. You can't use mods through I mean, you can use mods through EA's like new desktop app. There's just a whole other process. So I just loaded up Origin and started using mods with Andromeda again. They're fine. They enhance the combat um, in a real way and kind of break some environments, like especially the environments that are towers that you need to scale. Because now I have like a mod that makes my jump pack really powerful,
Hmm.
so I can just leap up onto these towers, and it just makes the game a bit less
I do remember
tedious.
seeing the jump pack and be like, oh, that's kind of a cool addition, as being like
Yeah,
something that's also leading into Anthem's combat. The similarities between the
yeah,
two.
like when that came out, it was kind of like a Warframe light feel to it, right? Because like Warframe is the sci-fi ninja shooter where you were like jumping around any environment arena shooter that you find yourself in and just are massacring people. Um, and like Andromeda kind of like that was my frame of reference for Andromeda when it was being teased, and I'd say it is very like Warframe light in that you're not moving as fast. You have the most mobility of anyone on the battlefield, um, but you're not like just dashing across or arenas in the same way that you are in Warframe, and even like as fast as you can get, it's not going to be that.
I hear the combat is like
Uh,
the one thing from Andromeda that people really enjoy.
yeah, I mean, it's relatively solid. I get why people walked away with probably most positive impressions of its combat more than anything, right? Because its main narrative is quite frankly a less interesting retread of the narrative that exists in Dragon Age Inquisition, right? But now you have the added like layer of inter interstellar colonialism that I think the game really fumbles with, considering like where they had the time to put their writing and resources. Um, like because I was saying this before, like I think the main narrative of that game is not particularly strong in any way. I think this game definitely needed like a cup more time to let its writers pass over, like go over its narrative again and like punch up its script.
Hey, they'll punch up the script in Mass Effect Andromeda too. Because wasn't this supposed to be like a planned trilogy or something?
This was the idea, right? Is that this would be like the next sort of like phase of Mass Effect, right? Which is why Andromeda ends and it's like the fourth arc, right? These are the whole setup with this is like the Andromeda Initiative is like four arcs containing a variety of populations, though like three of them are actually no, there's like five. There's five arcs because you have the human, Turian, Solarian, and Asari, and then you have the Quarian arc, which houses Quarians and every other less important species, um, which is just a fucked idea.
Of
But
course.
yeah, and like someone really needs to go over that and be like, how about we don't just say that like Quarians, uh, Drell, Hanar, and like Elcor and like Volus are less important than like the three council races. And like this has always kind of been the problem with like the view, like Mass Effect's
Yeah.
view on its aliens, is that it always views them as far less important than people, like than humans, right? And Andromeda does have that problem. It is just slightly less than like the main trilogy does, in that Andromeda also has you coming into conflict with like uh not like like armed like physical conflict, but like into like friction with the Angara, who are uh a population native to the Andromeda galaxy, who are like, no, you like y'all gotta slow your roll a bit. You just got here. We don't know what's up with you.
Yeah. Some stuff.
Yeah. And like I'll say revisiting it, I'm probably gonna be kinder to Andromeda than I am any part of like that like original trilogy, because your fantasy is not like super powered space cop. It is like very vulnerable space colonizer, which like isn't isn't a great power fantasy either way, but like it has some more room, it has better like understanding of how it can maneuver this in a way that doesn't just make you seem like the person everyone needs to acquiesce to in order to get shit
Yeah.
done. In the same way that like the original trilogy, it's like everyone needs to just let Shepard do whatever they want.
Hey, yeah. Shepard is
Um,
he's the guy. He's the he doesn't follow any laws, and he's the super cop. What do they call
yeah,
those? What do they call them?
in Mass Effect,
Yeah.
Spectres.
Specters. Yeah. Can do
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. Except if the unless the human government doesn't want you to, because Shepard just lets that be a thing. Which it's so weird. It's so weird how like that original trilogy handles its
Yeah.
power structures.
Speaking
Um,
of sequels that didn't live up to the originals, I played Fallout 4. Yeah, I bought the strategy guide too on Amazon. It was like $10. It's a big book. It's about 545 pages.
so this is like a Prima like esque strategy guide.
It's the Game of the Year edition. It has the
Okay,
missions. It has all the guns, and then it has like the maps and what like items are on every map.
okay,
Because whenever I get a Fallout game, I always get the strategy guide because I just want to get all the legendary guns. But I guess the legendary guns in this game, like the named ones, you get them from
yeah.
trading. Apparently, that's
They
what I looked
mean
up.
yeah, legendary weapons in Fallout 4 mean like a very different thing than they do in like Fallout 3, right? Because like you have legendary guns like Lincoln's Repeater, right? Like name guns like that. And in Mass in fucking shit. Uh, in Fallout 4, all legendary gun is just like a gun with an attribute.
Yeah, which that I guess that kind of bummed me out because I that was my favorite part about like New Vegas and 3 was like collecting the special guns, but now you're just modding them and or getting the special attributes and stuff. But hey, it's fine. I'll collect the outfits then. I'll just collect all these outfits. I did what I always do, and
Yep.
I pillage every body's armor and I sell it all. That's what you do.
Yeah, I mean that's Fallout to me.
It looks really nice, Austin. I will say, like playing Fallout 4 for the first time with a nice stable. I think it's 60 frames. Frame rate is really cool. So it's been
Yeah.
good. It's treating me well.
Yeah, anytime Fallout 4 can like tease you with stability is great. I just remember like I had to actively install mods on the PS4 once they put mod support in there to like disable some graphical uh effects, right? Like I think I turned off God Rays. I downloaded a mod specifically to turn off God Rays, so that way the frame rate wouldn't dip so
Oh
much.
yeah, there are some god rays in this. I can say
That
I've
is
seen lots of.
that was a selling point with E3, right? Like the first time they debuted that, like as soon as they have you walk out of the vault, and you go through like the now burned forest between the vault and your neighborhood, they just had God rays shooting between the trees.
Blinded by light. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that. See, it was interesting. You get out of the vault this time, and it's like it raises you up instead of it just being like a door that opens. That was a
Yeah,
strange choice. The faces also still look bad, but they're better. They're still bad, but they're better bad.
I mean they emote in conversation,
Yeah.
right? Which is very new for Fallout, from Bethesda's Fallout games.
So I'm having an all right time. I didn't get that far. I think I just got to the city where you meet the journalist, and the journalist stuff made me chuckle. The first thing I did is I stole the key out of the mayor's pocket because I always
Yeah,
all the residents have keys to their own houses, but if you find an official with a key, there's always more stuff in their house. So I'm gonna go raid this guy's house,
yeah.
Austin.
Oh yeah, yeah. Go rob the mayor. Um, yeah, I remember people talking about like this Fallout 4 and like as a disappointment. Like I remember specifically like the critiques around like Diamond City being like as small as it is because it's not a particularly large area, and it's just wild to me that we had that critique about Diamond City, but like that city is probably the same size as Megaton.
Yeah, it actually it looks like it's a little bigger in Megaton. It looks like it's more comparable to like some of the cities in like New Vegas, which were a little bigger. Ah, Megaton, good times. I just blowing up the Megaton bomb and watching it from the
Oh,
fucking
jeez.
other place is really funny. And turning the there's some lady in Megaton who would do crafting stuff for you, and if you blow it up, she'll still be there, but as a ghoul, and you can still get missions from her. I think.
Yeah, because she gives you the Wasteland Survival Guide mission,
Oh yes,
which is
the
like,
Wasteland Survival Guide,
yeah,
my favorite.
yeah, which is just a really long chain of side quests. Um, yeah, and she'll like go to, I think if she turns to a ghoul, she goes to like the ghoul city, right? That exists in Fallout
No,
3.
she just stands in the middle of Megaton as a ghoul. It's really weird.
I remember her
I
leaving
don't.
because you can't because you can't actually go into Megaton when you blow it up.
No, you do. You
There's
do.
nothing
No,
left.
she's
No, you
just
can't.
she's just living
You
in blown up Megaton after you blow it up.
you can't like go in because you're like at the edge of Megaton where it was because it's so heavily irradiated because you set off a nuclear
Yeah,
bomb.
I have to find this. Well, I'll find this after. I have to quell my I have bits and pieces of memories of this game. Oh my god. Oh, Fallout 3. I bought Fallout 3. Good times.
I mean,
I will say the music isn't as
it is.
good in Fallout 4.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've never been like into Bethesda's or like this type of music in a real way. Um, like I never turn the radio on unless it's to get a mission. in Fallout. Um,
Oh yeah, she is moving to
what was it?
the Ghoul City, I
Yeah,
think. I don't know.
but I will say like the stylings in Fallout 4 just seem less interesting than they were in
Yeah,
3,
I
and they weren't even that interesting in 3 to begin
like a
with.
lot of the music is from 3 and then it just has some songs that aren't as good. So I was just while I'm playing, I have my Spotify playlist of 3 and New Vegas songs playing instead of listening to their soundtrack, which has been okay.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that being fun. I remember liking enough of like the ambient music in Fallout 4. Um, but then like after after like 10 hours of play, I was like, you know what I have podcasts.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and I don't care about what any of these people are putting in front of me because like there's nothing really interesting about the world of 4 outside from like some very rare occurrences like at some point you'll find a mission involving like a crew of robots on a ship.
Oh, okay. I'm into
Um,
that. I'm into that.
and that's yeah, like and that teases some really fun stuff. And once you get into if you play the expansion, if you play Far Harbor specifically, like Far Harbor is actually really cool. Like it has a really cool side mission where you go into a hotel for robots and there's like a Sherlock Holmes-esque murder has taken
Oh, that
place.
sounds hilarious.
It's fantastic. Just I remember laughing the entirety during the entirety of that side quest. Um, but like so much of that is missing in a real way from Fallout 4.
It's
Uh,
charm. The weird,
yeah, like
charming
there's just
side quests. Yeah, those were my favorite part of
yeah,
3
like
and stuff.
like weird charming side quests and like also and it seems like they tried to put that into characters, right? Like you walk in and you meet Piper and she's animated in a way like she's doing animations that she will never do again and no one else ever does. Like she is like waving her hands around as she's yelling at this radio and no one ever moves like that again.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, at
You
least you
get
get to
like
meet Dog Meat in the first like 20 minutes of this game. You get
yeah, I
Dog,
know. At least they
and
give
he
you the
picks
dog.
things up for you, and he's good dog.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Because I don't think I've encountered the dog in my current playthrough of Fallout 3.
Yeah, he'll just kind of show up in 3. You'll just be walking, be like, oh look, a dog.
Yeah, I've not found that dog. So I don't know, I just haven't done it. I also haven't like really found a companion in
I'm
Fallout
trying to
3.
remember what the Fallout 3 companions were.
I googled a few. I
Oh, they
know
die, don't
you
they?
get
Don't they
strong.
die?
Yeah, they can
Yeah, I
die.
remember that part about being
They can
cool.
straight die.
Um,
You get a super mutant companion as part of the story. I know that much. But like all the rest of them, there's one in like Megaton, but you have to be evil to get him. There's another one who is a slave, right? Who you find in like the slaver fortress that's in Fallout 3. And the thing is though, but if you just show up and start killing people, like she's into slavery, I guess. So like if you just show up and start killing slavers, she will attempt to kill you. So I had to kill her.
yeah. You get a ghoul named Sharon who's pretty cool. I remember. Yeah, Fox
I
the
did
super
find him.
mutant. Yes.
Okay.
You get Sergeant RL3, the Mr. Gusty robot, automatic take. I think you can only have one companion in Fallout 3, but I think you can have 2 in New Vegas or 2 in uh, 4.
In so no, it's only 1 in 4. In New Vegas, you can have one human companion and I think one like robotic companion,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. Because you have like an ED robot, like one of those like floating robots, like radio robots that you can get, and I think you can have that in your party at the same time as like a person. Um, in Fallout 4, it is just like one companion
Oh, that's a bummer.
at a time. Yeah, and it's the only time your companions really interact with each other. Is like if you like get
Wait.
Like because I know, like if you have Piper in your party and you go to get like the another companion you can recruit named Kate, uh, who you'll find in an area called the Combat Zone. They tease each other as you switch them out.
Yeah. Apparently in 3 you can have dog meat and a person.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Yeah. I remember New Vegas
I think I don't
had
want.
the old lady super mutant, which was my favorite super companion.
Oh, she's great. She's
She's
fantastic.
fantastic. Fallout 3, New Vegas had the best of everything, you could almost say. Let me see what the other companion. I
Yeah,
think one of them was an old yeah, Arcade Ganon was one of them.
yeah, New Vegas. Yeah, like arcade is someone you can pick up in like in New Vegas in like the
Yeah.
like a medical
Yeah.
ward. You have Cassidy, who you find at like the edge of the map, and she's like the daughter of I think a companion in Fallout 2.
Yeah, Cassidy's really cool.
Um,
And then Craig Boone,
yeah,
the sniper, the NCR sniper. Fuck, I could just play New
yeah,
Vegas
you
again.
get him by helping him find like his wife's
Yeah, he's
killer,
the best. He's the best. You find him at the
and
T-Rex city.
yeah,
Yeah,
Novak.
Novak times.
Yeah, and then you can find. I think if another companion you have
Yeah,
Veronica. Yeah,
Veronica and the ghoul companion. And then a robot dog, apparently. Rex, the cyber dog.
yeah, you meet him in New Vegas once you help out the like Elvis impersonator gang.
Ah, good times. Good time. Maybe I should play
Yeah, turns
Outer
out
Worlds. Does Outer Worlds have New Vegas charm? Oh,
no.
bummer.
There's nothing about. I feel like I've spoken about Outer Worlds on this
I don't
show
think we've
before.
talked about it. I've never.
It's a terrible video
Yeah, that's a
game.
bummer.
It's a really bad game. I think like any charm that exists in that game is so fleeting. Like you have companions like Parvati, and her quest is fantastic. Like her quest is so good. He's like her whole thing is she wants to ask out the captain of a ship you go to, like you dock at, and like she needs your help in preparing the date.
That's
And
pretty
this
good.
entire quest takes like the length of the game. Um, and the payoff is fantastic. Like the delivery, like Ashley Birch voices her body there, and like her delivery of like her lines is fantastic.
Yes.
And like really every voice actor in Outer Worlds is really good. The problem is just the scripting often isn't there, especially when it becomes like conflicts about like regarding the corporations and the people living on these planets. It has some really inconsistent characterization with people, and quite frankly, its like gameplay mechanics are so shallow. I can't even say like it's fun to play.
Well, now I'm curious about it. Maybe if I see it on sale for like $10, I'll throw a chance at it. But hey, I guess I'm just playing New Vegas again instead.
That's a
That's
thing
a
you
thing I
can
can
do.
do. I
Like
I'm think I might just go pick it. I think it's still on sale on Xbox right now. I might just pick up the pack because I don't play PC
it's
games, Austin. Why would I want to get a
what
New Vegas on PC where I can mod it when I can get it on Xbox?
I mean. I don't think you need to mod New Vegas. Like I think it's still a pretty fine game unmodded.
Yeah, and they I think they upped the frame rate in that too. I don't know.
Yeah, like the version I played, like I played the PC version. I didn't mod anything about New Vegas, mostly because it doesn't have official like Steam support, like Steam Workshop support. Um, which is a bummer. But again, nothing about New Vegas really like struck me as like I wish I had a mod to deal with this system or
Yeah.
like it's even its look. Um, but who knows? Maybe like the Fallout 4 New Vegas sort of project will release one day, and then I'll play that. I'll be like, oh, this is what this could have been. This
Look
is
at the
what.
beauty. See, there Blue Point make the remake New Vegas for me. There you go. It'll take
No,
them 10
Christ,
years.
no. I cannot. Mm, I could not think of a team I would want not to touch that.
You get a Obsidian to do it. Since Microsoft owns them now.
I mean, they could. they could have them do that. That would be
That'd be pretty
strange.
wild. Let's see what else you play. You played the Resident Evil Village demo, but I can.
Yeah, and I know
Yeah,
yeah, I think I say a bit more
yeah.
about it.
It's spoopy.
Yeah, so
Ethan
yeah,
Winters
yeah,
is
I mean,
the guy in trouble.
yeah, Ethan Winters like goes to a yeah, so like Resident Evil Village demo. This is the thing we spoke about in the news episode. Limited release, 30-minute demo. Um, like timed outside of like your gameplay, right? So there's a timer going as you start it, and it goes even when you're paused, which sucks. Um, and like once that timer goes out, you cannot access that demo again.
I dislike timers. I'm just gonna say that up front.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's a really weird thing to put that in the demo. Yeah, so you start out and Ethan Winters is talking to like some old lady and like asking about if his daughter's here because the setup here is like Chris Redfield comes to your house, kills your wife, and kidnaps your daughter, your
Damn it!
baby
Not again, Chris
daughter.
Redfield. Stop doing this.
Yeah, Chris Redfield comes in and kills like Mia, a pretty major character from Resident Evil 7 who just is just dead now.
Didn't she get
And
cured at the
that's
end of 7 or something?
yeah, that's the whole point. Like that's like the whole thing that you do in 7 is like the canonical. I guess at this point, the canonical ending of 7 is you give Mia the cure to the virus that has infected the Baker family, and then y'all both leave. And I guess like some years later, like you've reconnected. You had a kid, and then kidnapped and murdered. So now you're in some quaint, semi like European like looking town. And there be monsters afoot. There be some werewolves here, boyo.
And isn't the tall lady
And
related to the guy from 7? Isn't that the thing? It's like, you killed my cousin.
no, I don't think so. I think like she talks about meeting Ethan in the trailer. She talks about how he escaped her brother's little games. I think this is referring to a figure who we've seen in the marketing material, who's just this like dude in a big trench coat with like a huge hammer. I don't think she has any relationship with the Bakers.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and so this demo is like you going to this village, like this lady leaving you, basically shutting a huge gate behind her as she leaves. Once you hear that monsters are coming, and you have to explore this town for a bit. It's a really like well detailed environment. It's really interesting to just explore, go into these homes, find out that these people are worshiping some religious figure named Mother Miranda, uh, who like we don't know what her whole deal is yet, and then you get to a point where you're like open a gate, you go into a field, and there's like half lichen people, kind of werewolf people, but just like in that they're very hairy and they have like the graying skin that we usually associate with werewolves, but they still look very much like people, and they wield weapons and will come at you with machetes as you like can fire at them with your handgun, but you kind of just have to run away.
Yeah.
Then you meet up with a group of people, go into a big house. Everyone in that big house dies, and you have to open up a door using some seals. It's a real like it's all really brief, not a whole lot of substance within like its narrative implications, but like the stuff that is interesting is that Ethan is freaking out. Like Ethan is reacting to things now, unlike in 7 where he's just kind of nothing.
That one's coming out pretty soon, too. That one comes out May 7th. Wow.
Yeah, like it comes out real soon.
And I think you can
Um,
get that double demo on May 1st, which is House and Village on all consoles.
yeah, yeah. So on May 1st, like everyone can play like the two demos that are first coming out to PlayStation 4 and PS5. The next one being the Castle demo, which comes out next Saturday, which will probably feature the tall lady.
Ah, yes. Everyone's, I was on something, they just call her Vamp MILF, which I'm like, alright, whatever. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Internet's horny.
Um, yep.
No one's having a
Like
good
I
time
think
here, Austin.
no,
According to your tweet.
no one's having a good no one's having a good time in that demo.
It looks nice. It
I
looks
will
pretty.
say,
It's
yeah,
pretty.
it does. It looks really good. Um, I will say that like it changes how like crafting components work, right? Like, you know how in every Resident Evil, basically every Resident Evil, come to think about it, like you have things like herbs and things that you like, you mix the herbs together and like that takes up space in your inventory, right?
Yeah.
In this demo, that's not a thing. Like you pick up herbs, but they have their own like crafting inventory.
Huh.
So you're not managing like herbs uh, and your guns and such. Like the only time herbs will impact your actual like inventory is looks like once you combine them with another component and then form chem fluid, which is the medicine in Resident Evil 7, which is just like the water bottle that you squirt onto your hand, um, and then that
Oh
heals
yes, I
you.
love this squirting bottle. I
Yeah,
forgot to read these during the news bit, but I the thing I sent you on Discord was the different frame rates and resolutions. These are all running out on different consoles, which I guess have been optimizing. Like base Xbox One is getting 900p 30 frames, and like PlayStation 4 Pro is going to get 1080 60 or 4K 30.
yeah,
PS5 is 4K 60. They're shooting for 60 on the Series X, and Series S is 45p. So
yeah. So like once you open this, because I'm running this on a Pro. Once you open this in a Pro, you are asked if you want to get the cinematic mode or resolution mode, uh,
resolution every time.
or I should say frame rate or
Frame
resolution.
rate.
Um, yeah, so like resolution is like this could be at 4K, but you'd be running at 30. I decided to go with the frame rate because I just,
Nobody has
don't
4K
really
TVs
care.
right now. That's a myth.
Enough people do. Um, I think that's interesting is like the PS5 is like if you have ray tracing turned on, it's like they're shooting for 4K and 45 frames per
Yeah, but that
second,
ray tracing's real
which is
nice.
interesting.
It's ray tracing's real nice. Ooh, I can turn ray tracing
Sure,
on my 30 FPS Series
I
S.
think yeah, I think ray tracing is probably like I think that's really going to come into play more in the castle demo than what I've seen in the environments
Yeah,
in
and I'd rather have
Village.
good HDR than ray tracing. But maybe I'll
Yeah,
have both. Maybe in this 4K Minecraft mod, I'll have both.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it always looks pretty. Like no matter even with like ray tracing with like HDR off, um, it does look very good.
So hey, that's coming out. Is that your? Should we call it for the day?
I think we
We
can
can
call
call
it.
it.
I
We
think
did the due
that's everything.
diligence. I don't know what this. I'm watching Dreams stuff. All right, we gotta go. You can. Where can people find you out on the internet, Austin?
Um, God, if you really need to, you can find me at Twitter, uh, at Beardless2, TWO.
And I'm at Travis23 Doyle. Catch y'all later. We
Don't catch me.
don't catch me. Don't catch me outside. How about that?
Well, yeah, don't catch me outside because if you do, we'll be in the parking lot of the Dickens, and I don't want to tell you.
Yeah, I'll see you at the library. It's going down.